Hello and welcome to another update video on Bitcoin. In this video, I want to talk about the larger time frame structure, something that we often don't do so much on the More Crypto Online channel. That's exactly what the MCO Global channel is for. In recent weeks, I talked a lot about cycle length, seasonalities, be it Bitcoin dominance, which has gone really well. It's kind of played out nicely with the rally into the October highs. We were able to use Elliott Wave and seasonalities to be bullish on Bitcoin dominance in October. Of course, you know, the reason that this rally into the October Bitcoin dominance highs happened isn't great, right? The altcoins have been completely squashed. I'm not sure if that's the right word. But still, Bitcoin dominance is doing what Bitcoin dominance is normally doing in October. So I wanted to take a moment in this video to explain why altcoins haven't really done so well in this cycle, and also what the forecast is for Bitcoin dominance going forward based on, well, seasonalities, but also based on the model that we're using, which is Elliott Wave. Because, look, price action is king. And sentiment is really what's driving price action. And with Elliott Wave, we can identify the structures better than basically with any other tool. However, Elliott Wave is not a time-based model or system, so we have to use additional indicators for that, like, for example, seasonalities, which has gone quite well, because honestly, this Bitcoin cycle has gone so well, and we'll talk about Bitcoin first. This Bitcoin cycle, and I feel a lot of people are overcomplicating it because a lot of people have been left frustrated because they've been waiting for their favorite altcoin to run. And I get that, yeah. There hasn't really been the altcoin season in this cycle. I made a video on this channel, guys, was it March or so, where I talked in detail about altcoin season. And I talked about which things need to happen for altcoin season to occur. And none of those have really happened. Okay. So from that point of view, there's no sign of altcoin season. And I want to talk a little bit about why. So first of all, this cycle for Bitcoin has gone really well. I mean, those of you who've been following us since the beginning of the cycle, 2022, you guys know that I even was a little bit early with looking for a low in June 22. That is when a lot of people only got bearish. Can you remember? That is when a lot of people got bearish. FTX crash happened around that time. I mean, it wasn't in June. I think it was this low, right? That was the FTX low in November, October. November, I think it was. And but we were already looking for a low for Bitcoin in June. And honestly, maybe just based on normal market sentiment, this could have been the low had FTX not happened. But in the end, it probably needed that final flush, and then we saw that impulsive recovery. And really since then, this market has done what this market needs to do. Bitcoin has followed Elliott Wave structures perfectly. Bitcoin has followed an impulsive pattern. That's a 5-wave move without overlapping price action. Textbook Elliott Wave 5-wave move. It's forecasted this cycle, in my opinion, better than any other tool could do. Because it has given us really a good roadmap. I've never been bearish in these, since 2022, since the lows have formed. And hopefully this community has benefited from the Elliott Wave analysis that has told us along the way where we stand, right? For example, while everybody was getting bearish, here, Elliott Wave told us that no major support got broken, yeah? No major support, same thing here. But obviously, the air is getting thin up here, because now we have a 5-wave move up. So it is technically possible that we complete the cycle in this region. Now, that's where seasonalities come in. Seasonalities suggest that Q4 is bullish, and normally every cycle is bullish in Q4 until the top. And the top normally forms in Q4. So some of you might know that, especially if you watch the videos on this channel. I would go into Q4 assuming we are going to form a top. It just makes sense. It's common sense. That doesn't mean I'm calling for a top or anything. It just means to have a healthy sense of skepticism towards the extending cycle theory, because that's out there, that stuff. I'm not a huge fan of the overall 4-year cycle theory. I'm watching it. I think it's played out nicely. I'm following it. We're building some of it into our analysis, right? Here on this channel, we have a more holistic perspective. It's just a different lens, yeah? To give those who want a little more than just simple not simple Elliott Wave analysis. That's actually the advanced stuff on the More Crypto Online channel. Here, we combine different things, higher level stuff, right? Maybe easier to understand because a lot of people are familiar with the narrative of the 4-year cycle theory. But what people need to realize, a lot of people who are putting out there the 4-year cycle stuff, they are not traders, right? And if you're a trader, then you know that at some point when a lot of people believe something or have an advantage in the market will take it away from them. So at some point, that 4-year cycle theory will fail. But we can follow it until it fails. And we can go into Q4 with the assumption, that we might form a top because it happened before. Like, in 2021, the top formed in November. In 2017 it was October, right? No, December, sorry. Never October. It was never October. 2017 it was December, and it was November in 2013. So maybe Bitcoin likes to do something different this time and might choose December again. Maybe it will be October. I don't think it will be October. I don't think it will be October. But I will tell you when I start to believe it will be October. So first of all, we need to understand we're already at targets. I mean, my targets have been reached for Bitcoin. Yeah, I wanted to see 130K, but honestly, that's just spitting distance. Honestly, from what this cycle needs, because I'm thinking in Elliott Wave structures. The 5 waves have been reached. They've been formed. And I'm now going to take it level by level on the More Crypto Online channel every single day. Really level by level. That means macro, risk is high. We can top at any point. Okay, the traditional cycle indicators haven't topped yet. Seasonality still suggests a bullish wave 4. So be it, all right? That's why I'm going with that. But I'm very much aware that in Q4, a top can form. Very open to the idea that we can go higher because of, everything is probability-wise. And those who blindly believe the 4-year cycle theory might be surprised when the market still grinds higher. And that is why we use Elliott Wave to understand on the smaller time frames as well, do we have a top? We don't have a top yet, guys. So on the shorter time frames, we focus on higher prices until things break. However, we also have 2 macro indicators that will help us understand if the trend shifts. And that is the 21-week EMA and the 55-week EMA. The 21-week EMA is holding at around 111K at the moment. It's of course dynamic. It will move up if the price is above. And the 55-week EMA is around 98K. For the last few weeks and months, I've been highlighting these as relevant trend filters. So the upper one is like the short-term trend filter. As long as we're above that, there's absolutely zero evidence for a top. You can see that Bitcoin wasn't really affected by Friday's sell-off in terms of structure because nothing got broken. We're still holding above the 21-week EMA. We didn't even get a weekly candle close, or the candle actually broke briefly below, but the body is above. So we just have a wick below at the moment. I think this week's candle close will be very important. Now, below the 21-week EMA, we've got the 55-week EMA. And again, if we break below that and start to get weekly closes below, I think it will be dangerous for the bulls. Okay, so that's just very simplified. We have to talk more about that should it happen. Now, what I wanted to say actually is about altcoin season. Why did we not get that? And why was 2021 different? And, it is different because both 2017 and 2021 have been kind of unique from an Elliott Wave point of view. They are what we normally call the third wave. A third of a third wave or the larger third wave, doesn't matter. In a third wave, we typically get a very aggressive sentiment. You see that. It went up in a parabolic increase. We didn't get parabolic movements on the Bitcoin chart in this cycle. Now, most influencers will use the linear charts because it looks more aggressive, right? Like, that's what you see on social media because, hey, banana zone, all that rubbish. Because they just use linear. Markets are not moving in linear terms. That's ridiculous. Like a market that's moving in exponential terms should get the logarithmic chart. It's just, it's like, but unfortunately, it's not, it's not hype-driven enough. It doesn't spark enough emotions if you look at the linear, at the logarithmic chart. Yeah. But what you see here is the actual price movement. you see that sentiment here was very aggressive in 2021 as well, less so in this cycle. And those who used the logarithmic chart were actually able to recognize that. This here recognizes more the whole concept of squashed returns over various cycles, which is an economic just principle. Yeah. In addition to that, it's not only that, it's just market sentiment. In a fifth wave, in which we are now, we know that sentiment is more muted than in third waves. Here at MCO, we were able to recognize that throughout the entire cycle by analyzing so many altcoin charts and highlighting that most of these are moving in diagonal patterns. I don't want to get into the details here, but just 2 sentences, maybe 3. If an altcoin is moving in a diagonal pattern, then it means it's super fragile, the road to the upside will be bumpy, and you cannot trust it. If an altcoin chart is moving in an impulse, which a lot of altcoin charts have done in 2021 and 2017, that is actually what we need for an altcoin season. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be an altcoin season, yeah, but it could be very small, muted, and altcoins, we need to be more selective about the altcoin choices. So, to sum it up, it is Bitcoin's larger degree pattern that determined in this cycle, and we were able to recognize that, why the altcoins haven't performed as people expected. Yeah, but I've always warned, it's the diagonal pattern, guys. It's not an impulse. Don't trust it. That means in your trading, you need to play it smaller, less aggressive. Be ready for those bumps, and just be a bumpy ride. Okay, that might be different in future cycles, especially in third waves. But when Bitcoin is in a fifth wave, it's just not great. Okay, again, I'm still watching for another boom phase in 2025 in Q4, and that is more related to Bitcoin dominance, which is this, which is still moving in our range. It's been playing out nicely. Since 2022, I've been highlighting that this here looks like a flat correction from an Elliott Wave point of view, a 3-wave move. It kind of extended a bit, but it just reached this trend line here. And it reached our Fib levels back in the day. Not back in the day, it wasn't that far out, but it likes to use Fib, it likes to react to Fibonacci levels, Bitcoin dominance, especially like the area around the 61.8, 78.6, 88.7 Fib. So I got rejected here just above the 78.6 Fib, just below the trend line in that resistance area, started a decline. And that decline looks like a 3-wave move down. Now, we know that typically in October, Bitcoin dominance is going up. That's just seasonalities. We talked about that. Just for anybody who missed previous updates, quickly, Bitcoin dominance in October, there you go, normally bullish. Yeah, you see it here, it's the most bullish month of the year, normally, yeah, October. So it makes sense to align with that until the market tells us something different. And so the thesis was that if Bitcoin dominance is going up in October, we should see a low form in September. It kind of just makes sense. And that happened before as well. And so that was the thesis. Bitcoin dominance has gone up. And I don't use this only as like a side indicator. This is really central to understanding how capital flows between altcoins and Bitcoin, right? Which is why I put so much emphasis on Bitcoin dominance, especially from an Elliott Wave point of view, which is sentiment analysis. It helps us what the sentiment is currently doing. Now, we knew that from an Elliott Wave point of view, it at least would be likely to get a B-wave bounce. And B-waves reach normally these areas. We're now in that area. Oh no, the value rallied into this area, got rejected, coming down. So we'll see if we get a C-wave down from here. I don't fully trust it. I think this B-wave could easily extend. I haven't seen enough of the structure from that top that formed on Saturday, to really tell you that we've started the C-wave down. But that is basically what, dominance also suggests. If we go back to seasonalities, November is normally bearish for Bitcoin dominance. So it kind of makes sense to assume that maybe in October, maybe second half of October or so, a top might form in Bitcoin dominance. That's at least the thesis at the moment. So that should give you a really good overview. To sum it up, Bitcoin is in the very late stages of its cycle. It's played out this cycle perfectly. I think a lot of people overcomplicated this cycle just because their favorite altcoin didn't perform. But again, all of that was visible quite early due to the patterns a lot of altcoins are moving in. I have been bullish on very, very few altcoins, very, very few. Very skeptical about some others and bearish on most. As you know, if you attend our weekly live streams, there are really very, very few bullish accounts available on altcoins. That all is because Bitcoin's larger pattern. We can top at any point, but without a break below the 55 weekly EMA or 55 week EMA, there's really no sign of a larger top. Bitcoin dominance could get another high, but Bitcoin dominance should drop in November. That might spark another boom phase for altcoins, but I do not expect a major altcoin season as it was before. So that's been kind of my narrative throughout this entire cycle. Here on this channel, I try to kind of sum it up nicely for everybody to give you a good idea, especially now in Q4, where we stand in the cycle. So hope you like the update. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.